What sort of people were Justinian and Theodora? And how did it come about that they destroyed the greatness of Rome? These are the questions that I must answer next. When Leon occupied the imperial throne of Byzantium, 3 young farmers of Illyrian origin, Zamachus, Dataevistus, and Justin, who came from the Dariana, had been waging an endless war at home, with all the poverty that entailed. So they determined to get away from it all, and went off to join the army. They covered the whole distance to Byzantium on foot, carrying on their own shoulders cloaks in which, on their arrival, they had nothing but the dry biscuits dropped in them before they left home. Their names were entered in the army lists, and the emperor picked them out to serve in the palace guard, as they were all men of exceptional physique. Some time later, when Anastasius had succeeded to the imperial power, he was involved in war with the Isaurians, who had taken up arms against him. He sent an army of considerable size to deal with them, the commander being John the Hunchback. This John had locked up Justin in prison because of some misdemeanor, intending to dispatch him on the following day. This he would have done, but for a dream vision which came to him in time to prevent it. The general said that in a dream he was confronted by a being of colossal size, too powerful in every way to be taken for a man. This being commanded him to release the man whom he had that day imprisoned. He himself, on waking from sleep, dismissed the vision from his mind. But when the next night came, he dreamt that he again heard the same words as before, but remained just as unwilling to carry out the order. Then, for the 3rd time, the vision stood over him, threatening total ruin unless he did as he was told, and adding that one day he would be in a great rage, and then he would need this man and his family. This occurrence enabled Justin to survive his immediate danger, and as time went on, he acquired great power. The Emperor Anastasius gave him command of the palace guards, and when he himself passed from the scene, Justin, on the strength of this command, succeeded to the throne, though he was by now a doddering old man, totally illiterate. In popular parlance, he didn't know his ABC, an unheard of thing in a Roman. It was the invariable custom that the emperor should append his own signature to all documents embodying decrees drafted by him. Justin, however, was incapable of either drafting his own decrees or taking an intelligent interest in the measures contemplated. The official whose luck it was to be his chief advisor, a man called Procopius, who held the rank of quaestor, used to decide all measures as he himself thought fit. But to secure authority for these in the emperor's own handwriting, the men responsible for this business proceeded as follows. On a short strip of polished wood, they cut a stencil in the shape of 4 letters spelling the Latin of "I have read." Then they used to dip a pen in the special ink reserved for emperors and place it in the hands of the Emperor Justin. Next, they took the strip of wood described above and laid it on the document, grasped the emperor's hand, and while he held the pen, guided it along the pattern of the 4 letters, taking it round all the bends cut in the wooden stencil. Then away they went, carrying the emperor's writing, such as it was. That was the kind of emperor the Romans had in Justin. He was married to a woman called Lupicina, a foreign slave who had previously been purchased by another man and had become his concubine. But in the evening of her days, she became joint ruler with Justin of the Roman Empire. Justin was not capable of doing any harm to his subjects, or any good either. He was uncouth in the extreme, utterly inarticulate, and incredibly boorish. His nephew Justinian, though still quite young, used to manage all the affairs of state, and he brought on the Romans disasters which surely surpassed both in gravity and in number all that had ever been heard of at any period of history. For without the slightest hesitation, he used to embark on the inexcusable murdering of his fellow men and the plundering of other people's property, and it did not matter to him how many thousands lost their lives, although they had given him no provocation whatever. The maintenance of established institutions meant nothing to him. Endless innovations were his constant preoccupation. In a word, he was a unique destroyer of valuable institutions. The plague, as I mentioned in an earlier volume, fell upon the whole world. Yet just as many people escaped as had the misfortune to succumb, either because they escaped the infection altogether, or because they got over it if they happened to be infected. But this man, not a single person in the whole Roman Empire could escape. Like any other visitation from heaven falling on the entire human race, he left no one completely untouched. Some he killed without any justification. Others he reduced to penury, making them even more wretched than those who had died. In fact, they begged him to put an end to their misery by any death, however painful. Some he deprived of their possessions and of life as well. But it gave him no satisfaction merely to ruin the Roman Empire. He insisted on making himself master of Libya and Italy for the sole purpose of destroying their inhabitants along with those already subject to him. He had not been 10 days in office before he executed Amontius, controller of the palace eunuchs, with several others, for no reason at all, charging him with nothing more than an injudicious remark about John, the archpriest of the city. This outrage made him more feared than any man alive. His next step was to send for the pretender Vitalian, whose safety he had previously guaranteed by taking part with him in the Christian sacraments. But a little later, Justinian took offense through groundless suspicion and put him to death in the palace along with his closest friends, without the slightest justification, making no attempt to honor his pledges, the most solemn imaginable.